Curtis on his time, breaking down the stories every view will unwind. From left to right we'll see the light. It's balance we're chasing, no fighters fight. Curtis Selby talking it straight. Let's hear both sides, let's communicate. Politics and reason, let's find the truth. Curtis Selby's here to bridge it for you. Debates, insights, it's all on the screen. Curtis Selby keeping it keen. Hit subscribe, stay on while it's diving deep with Curtis Selby. The combos you need. The combos you need. Days out with the cheerful whistle and guitar riff. Debates, insights, it's all on the screen. Curtis Selby keeping it keen. Hit subscribe, stay a while, it's diving deep with Curtis Selby. The convo's unique. Curtis Selby talking it straight. Let's hear both sides, let's communicate. Politics and reason, let's find the truth. Curtis Selby's here to bridge it for you. Debates, insights, it's all on the screen. Curtis Selby keeping it keen. Hit subscribe, stay a while, it's diving deep with Curtis Selby. The combos unique. The combos unique. The combos unique.
Hail and well met, ladies and gentlemen. Cry havoc and let loose the dogs of war. It is I, Curtis Selby, retired midnight blogger, what blogs in this case at 10:23 a.m. I apologize, I'm not doing my cartoons today. I thought about skipping because I'm going to be doing a stream later with Darkwoods Presents at 1:30 Central over the plight of the homeless, but I just could not help at least doing something about the debacle between Trump, JD Vance, and Zelinsky. I'm going to be a more centrist on this one than I have been in the past, partly because I know a lot of, one of my right-wing friends is giving some criticism to Trump. I know anyone that's even slightly left-wing is just going to be mad as hell about Trump, what he did, what he said. I haven't made up my mind myself because I haven't watched the entire thing. I've watched the first half an hour, and then I've watched some people's analysis of it. But I'm going to try to do it what justice I can in a 36-minute stream because that's all the time I got. I thought about skipping this too, but I just couldn't. I'm like Trump and Zelinsky both. I just can't let it go. Okay, don't push in stream this time. All right. Looks like there's one person in the chat. Hail and well met. I hope that we can entertain and possibly inform a little bit. Unless you're living under a rock, which I kind of did for a long time, sort of. You know that yesterday, love was such an easy game to play. No, that's not it. Yesterday, there was what was hopefully going to be a historic meeting between Trump and a bunch of his aides and Zelinsky, and the much touted promise that Trump made of we're going to end the war in Ukraine, which that's still the stance that I take. Whoever the good guy is, whoever the bad guy is, the war in Ukraine needs to end with as little bloodshed as possible and with as little indignity to Ukraine at any rate. Russia, I only care about them mainly because actually I do love the Russian people. I don't really love Vladimir Putin, but I love the Russian people. I love a lot of the things about Russian culture. I don't know their language very well, so I've had to read English translations, but Russian novels are just amazing. The skill, the talent, the human spirit that goes into them. I absolutely love Russian novels. Again, English translations. I'm too nekulturny to be able to read them in the original Russian. So, beginning with the half hour that I watched, it was tense. There were lots of times when it seemed like both people were misstating things. And I couldn't help but think that whoever made the mistake first, and not meaning to side with Trump, but I would say that Zelensky started in that, not that he misspoke, but that he started to talk about things that really would have been better to talk about behind closed doors with just the diplomats, without the reporters. So, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I agree with the way Trump handled that. I will say this, and unless you're just an intense hater of Trump, which I know there's a lot of you out there, I think most of you will agree with this. Considering it's Trump, Trump was quite patient, considering who he is. I wouldn't say that if it was any other politician in the world, I wouldn't say that he was very patient. But for Trump, I go through the first half hour, and that's as far as I've gotten into the video. But I go through the first half hour, and all through it, while there's missteps, there's miscommunication, there's tension, there's times when I could see that they both wanted to argue. Neither of them really started in. And so the things that I've seen as far as JD Vance calling him out, as far as Trump calling him out, obviously they must have happened in the last 15 minutes of this 40-some minute video. And again, considering who Trump is, that's actually very, very patient. Hail and well met, Darkwoods. We are going to stream later, and I can only stream for another half hour on this one. I'm not going to be able to do it the justice it deserves, but I just couldn't not talk about it. Clue Studio, and this is the deal. I have conservatives and left-wingers very upset with Trump about this. I'm trying to keep an open mind because, again, I haven't seen the whole thing. And I also know that there's a lot of people in the community who absolutely stand behind what Trump and JD Vance said. And I don't want to be a Kool-Aid drinker, but at the same time, essentially what I'm trying to say is I'm going to do my damnedest to respect all sides if possible, but at the very least, the two sides of, yeah, Trump and Vance showed him, sent him to the kids' table, like Clue Studio, who is awesome, and thank you very much for being here. God bless you. Says, but then there's also the other side that's like, man, I don't know. They were rude, and there was no need to call him out that way. And it looks like a setup to me. And when I say me, I don't mean me. I mean my friends. Darkwoods present this war did not start in a vacuum, and it didn't start with the invasion. And I would agree with that. I know that Trump misspoke when he said that Ukraine could have, how did he put it? I can't remember exactly how he put it, but the left took it and ran with it and made it sound like he was saying that Ukraine started the war. I don't know that I would go that far, but it is absolutely true. It didn't start in a vacuum, and there were things going on already on both sides before the invasion. It's just a short thing. It was a 40-minute talk. Yeah. So I evidently everything just hit the fan in the 30-some minute mark. Because like I say, I've gotten through the first 30 minutes and holy crap, there's tensity, but it doesn't fall apart quite yet where I'm at. Let's, before I start playing any of the video, I want to share again with the interests of presenting as many sides as I can in this intensely limited time. I know LDG Free the Net, who I honestly disagree on a lot of things, but he's very intelligent. He does think out his beliefs, and he's very strong opinion on them. I do want to share it because that's one of my things. I think that we should, I haven't been doing it as much lately, but I do think we should present other sides and other opinions. LDG says, obviously, Donald Trump can't really handle leaders of others people on a national platform. Maybe he needs to go back to the basics. This was perceived as a setup, and I've heard that from conservatives and liberals both. Many of us would have better handled this. Trump sure knows how to set up perceptions, as during his assassination attempt, which maybe he has a point. Let me know what you think. More to come. See you soon, fellow Americans. America is better than this. Again, this according to LDG Free the Net. And I will play the 58-second clip that
people are very brave. But maybe he did. I don't know what happened, but he didn't break them with me. He wants to make a deal. I don't know if you can make a deal. The problem is I've empowered you to be a tough guy. And I don't think you'd be a tough guy without the United States. And your people are very brave. But you're either going to make a deal or we're out. And if we're out, you'll fight it out. I don't think it's going to be pretty, but you'll fight it out. But you don't have the cards. But once we sign that deal, you're in a much better position. But you're not acting at all thankful. And that's not a nice thing. I'll be honest, that's not a nice thing. All right, I think we've seen enough. What do you think? Huh? This is going to be great television, I will say that. All right, we'll see what we can do about putting it together.
Okay, I got to say this. The press corps is a lot more of an exciting place now under Trump, whether that is good or bad, than it was under Biden. All right, let's see what's going on in the chat. Zelinsky had a chance to speak. He did speak. It's incredibly rude to talk over someone that is talking when it's their turn to talk. So I may have missed something there. I was told that Trump and Vance talked over him. I didn't know that he had talked over them. Darkwoods, from what I saw, Zelinsky could have come out better if he would have listened. You aren't listening if you're interrupting and trying to argue when you're taking turns to talk. And not arguing your point, but trying to be fair to other viewpoints and to Zelensky himself, who is not my hero, but at the same time, I want to give the guy some due respect. He has, admittedly, with a ton of help from us, but he has kept one of the world's great military powers somewhat at bay. He and his people have demonstrated a lot of bravery, and I don't want to even take that from them. That doesn't necessarily mean that he's my hero or that he doesn't make some profound mistakes, as we all do. And Space Fraggle is here. I'm sure he has a viewpoint on it. Okay, Space Fraggle, Kaplaw. Hail and well met. Glory to you and your house. I'm more or less in the middle on this one. I haven't made up my mind. That's one of the reasons why I'm foolishly streaming. I'm trying to make up my mind about this. But I absolutely respect and am considering what you're saying. JD Vance should have kept his mouth shut. He started it. JD Vance is not president. P.S. What was the Russian-run state media Taft doing there? I was wondering about that too, honestly. On one hand, it makes sense. There should probably be a Russian reporter there since Russia's involved. But it seemed like they did give him more question time than I would. I might have given him 2 questions, but he seemed to talk more than I would have given him that opportunity. But again, I haven't watched the whole thing, and I've watched some people's takedowns of it, but really not enough to give an intelligent thing. But yeah, here I am because I can't help it. There is a thin line between bravery and stupidity, and again, not to take away from his bravery, but both sides are losing thousands. I think the estimate's now over 1 million of wonderful young people. Not to take Russia's side in a way, not to take Ukraine's side necessarily, but the one thing I do agree with Trump about is that the war needs to end. Now, does that mean it should end at any cost? I don't know about that. Should it end with Ukraine losing their sovereignty? Hell to the no. I think they fought too hard and more or less earned that sovereignty. But there's a lot of other things that could be on the table. Damn, I only have 23 more minutes that I can talk. Let me see what Space Fraggle has here to say. A right-wing reporter ripped on Zelinsky not wearing a suit. I did see that. Why didn't they rip on Elon Musk for not wearing a suit as well? It's a good point. And not to poo-poo your point, I'm with you on this. The reason is Musk's on our side. And I won't deny there's a part of me that's that way as well, but it's not necessarily right. I know people who I love and respect laughed about Trump getting on to Zelensky about the suit. Once again, not to poo-poo it too much, but it's Trump being Trump. He's got that particular dig thing. He's got that, I've got to make sure that you know that I'm the big dog. But to be fair, and with respect to you as well, Space Fraggle, in this particular case, he kind of is the big dog, whether we like that or not. All right, Dark Woods. There can be Russian press there. A reporter from TASS, a Russian state media outlet, was present at the White House, but was later removed because TASS was not on the approved media list. Got it. Oh, Clue Studio. That's a touche. I'm not saying that I'm necessarily taking your side on it, but I get what you're saying. Elon isn't, quote unquote, an elected official. So it's different. I get what you're saying, but I also respect how probably Space Fraggle feels about that we were okay with Elon not being in a technical suit, but we're going to get on to Zelensky for what he wore. On one hand, I get it. I get the dig and the rub, and we're trying to let Zelensky know that this is a different time. This is a different place, different administration. We're not going to just simply write blank checks anymore. And I'm for that, honestly. If we're going to fund the Ukrainian war effort, I'm not going to say that we should be in control necessarily, but we need to be, I guess I'll just be blunt. We need to be respected. I know I used to hate that. I used to believe that that was a petty thing, but I've learned that respect is a big deal. And on one hand, there's the saying, which is at least partially true, respect is earned. But then there's that Southern, and JD Vance, if nothing else, he's an Appalachian hillbilly. If you read his book, Hillbilly Elegy, whether you like him or not, it's a beautiful read. And he has really come up from being a freaking redneck hillbilly to being the vice president. Now, I kind of suspect that that might have been part of why he jumped in there, that we might have seen just a little bit of that hillbilly coming out. He writes about how he would get into fist fights, defending his sister's honor, defending his mama, his grandma from insults. If I'm JD Vance, and I'm not saying this was right, I'm just analyzing it. I'm JD Vance, and I see Trump being quote unquote attacked. Not really, but from a hillbilly perspective, he was. Again, you got to take it from a hillbilly perspective. I'm not saying, I mean, you don't have to, but if you want to understand what JD Vance did, you have to look at it that way. And, you're quote unquote attacking my father figure here. I'm going to go after you. Not saying that that's right. I'm just saying that's what I think happened. Dark Woods reporters do that. Both are known for doing that, and that's true. A lot of heads of departments are not elected, like USAID. 0 of them were elected to their position. That's true. Independent agencies of the United States federal government do not have elected heads of staff. Instead, they're led by appointed officials who are not part of the presidential cabinet. Well, at any rate, there are two very petty parts of me when it comes to the Zelinsky suit thing. The petty right-winger in me is, yeah, give him what for, show him, yeah, that's right. He's got his way too long here. And the petty left-winger in me is like, dude, it's just clothes. Why are we getting on to him about his clothes? Why don't we just stick to the principles and deal with it? You be the judge on which of those sides. I think probably both sides are wrong to an extent, but unless I just completely go schizophrenic, I can't be rid of all of them. I want to share a little bit because I watched up to no, that's not what I want to share. I watched up to the 36-minute mark, and it seems to me like this is where things are about to really hit the fan. So I've only watched the other parts with people's commentary. I know what this person thinks, that person thinks. I want to make up my own mind, and I really do want your feedback, whether you think Zelensky's in the right, whether you think Trump is in the right, whether you think they're all stupid, or if you think they all have some kind of a point. Please let me know respectfully in the chat, as you all have been doing. So, breaking news, Trump and Zelensky. Let's see what happens next.
But for the most part, no.
And sir, is there any agreement from Ukraine to purchase U.S. LNG as part of the deal, or is that on the table at all?
No.
We
don't need that.
Some of those minerals are in the east, Mr. President.
You just mentioned that you'd spoken to Vladimir Putin a couple of days ago. Just to be clear, that's a new call, not the one that you were
I've spoken to him on numerous occasions.
Okay. How was the latest call? What did you discuss? How did it go?
Are you serious with that question?
I am. I'd love to know.
It went well. I think we're going to have a deal.
On the minerals deal, Mr. President, some of those minerals are in the east of Ukraine, not far from the front lines and in areas that Russia has occupied. Will you direct President Putin to withdraw his forces from those areas if there's U.S. interest
Well,
there?
we'll take a look at the time. We have a lot of area. It's a very big area we're talking about. So we'll take.
Yeah, everyone thinks of Ukraine as a small nation. And if memory serves, it is smaller than the United States. And it's tiny compared to Russia. But it's actually a pretty big country. It's just small compared to the really big countries that are otherwise involved. Darkwood says, normally these kind of proposals are written down, given to the president, then Zelenskyy or other petitioners generally make a verbal statement, then the president gives a rebuttal. Yeah, and I would suspect Zelenskyy is used to dealing with Biden. Frankly, he's used to dealing with Biden's handlers, whoever they were. And one of the things that I resent is that probably Zelenskyy has a better idea of who ran this country the last 4 years than we do. But that's not Zelenskyy's fault. That's our fault. I know that it was a profoundly different experience 4 years ago. And I'm not really going to criticize Biden or his administration for the things they did at first, except for Kamala Harris' stupid remark about Ukraine joining NATO. And I still believe that's what it precipitated the war. If she had just not said that, maybe it still would have happened, but I suspect it might be possible that it wouldn't have. But yeah, there are protocols, and it looks to me like both sides broke your typical diplomatic protocols. Both sides said too much in front of reporters. Honestly, we should probably give hats off to these reporters. Now that they have a government that they hate, they're actually attempting to do their jobs, sort of. Or at least in this, that they did a better job than I've seen for a while. Darkwoods, we probably have never seen an initial proposal for this kind of aid ever. At least I would suggest we haven't seen it since the 40s. I would suspect since World War II. Ukraine is probably larger than most. I believe you are correct. I don't think it's the largest, but I think it is among the largest of the European countries. Space Fraggle's driving. Please be safe. And I know and I respect that you're passionate about this and that you probably have different viewpoints from most of my audience and possibly even myself. I think I'm somewhere in between where you're at and where my audience is at on this one. But please be safe. That's more important than anything that we're talking about. Darkwoods, if these proposals indicate secret military devices, including nukes, they'll not be made public. Yeah, agreed. And you got to remember, it was a great big deal back in the 90s, allowing Ukraine to have their independence. A lot of diplomatic stuff was involved with that. You had, you had Clinton, you had, for a very brief time, you had Gorbachev, and then you had Yeltsin with his attack dog, Putin, who later became the big dog. A lot of diplomacy went on to allow Ukraine to have independence at all because they had a shit ton of nukes. And Russia didn't want a country. I don't blame them. They have one country on their border already. I take America as being on their border, even though very technically we're not. There's not, maybe, I don't know the exact amount of space, but 2, 3, 4 miles between Alaska and Siberia. I mean, they've already got nukes on their border. Granted, so do we. But that makes it, in their eyes, in my eyes, even. They don't want Ukraine having nukes aimed at them. I don't blame them. Even if they are bad guys, nobody wants to be in any greater danger of being nuked than is necessary, quote unquote. By the way, we are still giving Ukraine money and resources, even though this meeting happened. Yeah, I would think that even Trump, Doge, and all that, it would take a while to stop that. And if I were Trump, I frankly wouldn't stop what's already been agreed to. At least not until we have an actual solid agreement. Words are one thing, but going back on your word is another. So I'm hoping that he doesn't unilaterally do that. Okay, I've only got a few minutes here. Let's see. Where did it go south? This is where it went south, isn't it? I'm going to skip ahead a bit and play where I think roughly is the area where things finally just kind of fell apart.
Vladimir, how are we doing on the deal? That doesn't work that way. I'm not aligned with Putin. I'm not aligned with anybody. I'm aligned with the United States of America and for the good of the world. I'm aligned with the world, and I want to get this thing over with. You see the hatred he's got for Putin. It's very tough for me to make a deal with that kind of hate. He's got tremendous hatred.
Ooh, okay. So Trump made it personal there. What did he say that was so hateful? Let's see
the
what
Second
it was.
World War. When I was a kid, I looked at the United States not only as a most powerful country, richest country in the world, the country that has great music, great movies, great muscle cars, but also as a force for good. And now I'm talking with my friends in Poland, and they are worried that you align yourself too much with Putin. What's your message for them?
Well, if I didn't align myself with both of them, you'd never have a deal. You want me to say really terrible things about Putin and then say, hi, Vladimir, how are we doing on the deal? That doesn't work that way. I'm not aligned with Putin. I'm not aligned with anybody. I'm aligned with the United States of America and for the good of the world. I'm aligned with the world, and I want to get this thing over with. You see the hatred he's got for Putin. It's very tough.
I'm assuming he must mean the context of the things before. And I would disagree with Trump for having put it that way. I do understand Zelensky having his country was invaded. Let's cut him some slack here. You're going to have some strong negative feelings towards someone that's invaded your country. Again, that's not to say that I'm absolutely on Zelensky's side, but I would say that was an unfortunate choice of words. With all due respect to both Trump, who I support, and to my friends who are Trump supporters. Many of you are more strong supporters than I am. There is no ceasefire yet. Trump is still trying to negotiate with Zelinsky. Z doesn't want a ceasefire. He wants nukes. He wants ground troops, and he wants more money. And I'm sadly afraid that you're right. And I would say that if Trump gives him nukes and ground troops to help, I would be sadly disappointed with him. More money, that's arguable. More weapons, more equipment. I could see all of that being negotiated. But to me, the absolute thing that we cannot do, or we do risk world war. No nukes and no boots on the ground. No American military boots on the ground. Guerrillas. Son of a bitch. The one day I can't stick around. You go live. Well, don't worry. I've only got 5 minutes left anyway. Jeff B. Hail Curtis, is Zelinsky a hobbit? And look, I got to tell you, I never think about Trump is actually a fairly tall dude. And I never think about that until moments like this. He's standing next to Zelensky. And yeah, I mean, I don't want to get too personal about insults or anything, but yeah, it was quite a contrast. Zelensky is 5'5". Yeah, okay. Well, you know, you could be a tough guy. My granddad was 5'4", and he was incredibly strong and beat the crap out of lots of people. He lost one boxing match in his life, and that was because he got drunk on moonshine before he did the fight, which is a lame excuse. He shouldn't have done that, but it was the only fight he ever lost in his life. I wish I could say I was that tough. I'm not. Hail, Dark Woods, and Gorilla. Mayweather is shorter than that, and hurling him out like a rowdy customer at a strip joint. See, like I say, I'm in between all you guys. I know that a lot of you are very happy about what Trump did, the way he handled it, and part of me is too, because I don't like how Zelensky was basically just, you know, getting almost anything that he wanted, while people here were suffering from storms and fires and things like that, which I know, don't get me wrong, I know the Ukrainians are suffering from a war, but that's their war. These were our catastrophes. Why aren't we taking care of our catastrophes and taking care of that war? So, but at the same time, I do think that Trump could have handled this possibly a little more diplomatically. Gorillas has been censored. I do have enough time to find out what you were censored for. Ukraine is going to lose Crimea, probably some territory anyway. Well, and that's just it. Whether you like Trump or not, one point he has that's brutally and maybe even sadly correct. If we back out and quit supporting them, they're screwed. They're just screwed. Europe, well, I mean, I guess it's possible that Europe has more backbone than I think. They are, after all, quite thoroughly happy to toss 60 and 70-year-old people in the pokey for insulting their prime ministers. But I wonder if they have the backbone to take on Russia. Maybe, because Russia's frankly, not as strong as I expected them to be. Jeff B., only time I got punched in the chin was by Napoleon complex sufferer. Yeah. Well, now you're describing, as much as I love my granddad and love that he was strong, that's basically what he had, was Napoleon complex. So did my dad. Granddad was 5'4". Dad was 5'6", and I'm like, usually I'm used to being the short guy, but when I go to family reunions, I'm usually towering over everyone else. It's really surreal. Dark Woods, people that lived in the east of Ukraine don't want to be Ukrainian. They want to be Russian. Really, who are we to argue with the people? The people are supposed to rule in a democracy. We champion that. Oh, and Gorilla sent something to me on X. What did he send? I almost wish I didn't do this because I won't have time. I'm not going to repeat this, but I get what you're saying. I want to see. Yeah, you're a little angrier, Gorillas, at Zelensky than I am, and I do kind of get it. But I'm trying to be a little more centrist on this one than I've been for a while, mainly because I can see the point. I really can. I think all three of these people said some things that should have been said behind closed doors with diplomats and without reporters. But okay, I've got almost no time at all. I want to listen to what JD Vance said, and then we'll kind of comment on that and call it a stream. I hate to do that, but like I have something I need to be doing around 11:30, so.
Respond to this. So look, For 4 years in the United States of America, we had a president who stood up at press conferences and talked tough about Vladimir Putin, and then Putin invaded Ukraine and destroyed a significant chunk of the country. The path to peace and the path to prosperity is maybe engaging in diplomacy. We tried the pathway of Joe Biden of thumping our chest and pretending that the president of the United States' words mattered more than the president of the United States' actions. What makes America a good country is America engaging in diplomacy. That's what President Trump is doing.
Can I ask you?
Sure.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. So he occupied our parts, big parts of Ukraine, part of East and Crimea. So he occupied it on 2014. So during a lot of years, so I'm not speaking about just Biden, but those time was Obama, then President Obama, then President Trump, then President Biden, now President Trump, and God bless, now President Trump will stop him. But during 2014, nobody stopped him. He just occupied and took. He killed people. You know what the contact
2015.
2014.
2014 and
2014.
Yeah. So
I
he killed,
was not here.
yeah, but,
That's exactly
but
right.
yes, but during 2014 till 2022, the situation the same. The people are been.
I think this is where, at least in the mind of Trump and Vance, you don't necessarily have to agree with them or with me, but in the mind of Trump and Vance, I think this is where he took the bridge too far. He was basically saying that, and he has some point here, that Putin was doing some terrible things, and Trump in 2016 really did only, to my perspective, he only did minimal things to stop it. Now, in Trump's mind, I'm thinking that here's the deal. While bad things were going on, they were profoundly less horrible than what's going on now. And I think Trump was thinking, well, we did X, Y, and Z that kept Russia from an all-out invasion, and we don't know what those things are because they were all done diplomatically and behind the scenes. And he's probably, I mean, this is Trump. He's probably exaggerating the importance of whatever things he did do. But he's hearing this guy basically comparing him to people that, again, in Trump's mind, were practically useless and frankly harmful toward American freedom and toward Ukrainian interests. And he's putting Trump on the same plane as them. And if you're negotiating with a guy like Trump, and especially with a guy like Vance, that's a profound mistake. Again, I'm not saying that that makes Trump and Vance the right party here, but look, I grew up around hillbillies. Unless you want your ass filled with buckshot, this isn't the way you negotiate with them. Dark Woods put lightweight boxer out of professional boxing, gave him a horrible concussion. Lightweight boxers can't compete with heavyweights. Yeah, you're not wrong. That's one of the reasons why I didn't go into boxing. This is not a boxing ring. This is a street fight. Woman was paying me for security. Well, he wouldn't leave her alone. He said he was the featherweight champion, so I just fired away. If we had simply accepted Russia's mutual defense pact, and this, I think, is a good point. I think it is a good point. I know people on both sides disagree with me, but if we had accepted or even just negotiated, you know, it didn't have to be Russia's plan necessarily, but we could have surely possibly negotiated something. And if that had happened, then this whole thing would not have happened, because all of these countries involved would be in a NATO-like thing. We would have gotten what we want now, because let's just be realistic. We do want Ukraine in NATO. But that is not a practical reality. It's like, I want to sleep with some supermodel, but it's just not practical. It's not going to happen. You know, for one thing, the woman I'm dating would be like, well, I'm done with you, Buster. But that's only the beginning. There's tons of other practical reasons why that's not going to happen. It's in the realm of possibility, but it's just impractical to think about on a serious level. Darkwood says he is a hillbilly. Got you. Space Fraggle. Great stream, Curtis, is why. Thank you very much. And like I say, I'm trying. I may be failing, but I'm trying to take as much of all the signs that I'm able to think about into account. I'm not going to pick a winner or loser or good guy or bad guy on this one. If forced to choose, I'm going to side with Trump because he's my president. And I hope that I don't sound disingenuous. I would do the same if it was Biden. If there's some kind of conflict between Zelensky and Biden, unless you can really demonstrate to me that Zelensky has a moral high ground and Biden doesn't, I'm going to go with Biden. But thank God he's gone. Darkwoods, I don't believe this was an act of Russian expansion. Screw anyone that says otherwise. Those are fighting words with me from now on. And I get that. I get that. I'm not sure exactly. I don't quite stand where you're at, but I do stand closer to you, I think, than most people, because at the very least, I think we have to consider the Russian mindset. We have to consider the Russian culture. We have to consider Vladimir Putin, the man. It doesn't mean that we have to side with them or agree with them, but we will do so much better diplomatically if we, or militarily for that matter, if it comes to war. Please God, don't let that happen. Yes, Clue Studio, it could happen. Some supermodel might drive into this town and be high off of her keister and just happen to break down at my house and decide that I'm Brad Pitt. I mean, it's possible, but the odds of it happening are quite, in fact, I would say that the odds of me getting a supermodel are probably very close to the same odds of Ukraine becoming part of NATO without precipitating a world war. Ukraine is devastated. The people are almost all dead. The war is nearly over. Continuing it is in no one's best interest. Okay, and thank you for understanding my weird sense of humor. I hate to do this, but I got to call it a stream. As much as I want to share more of what JD Vance said, for good or ill, because again, both parts of me have very different reactions to what JD Vance says. So I can only imagine that people with different viewpoints have very different thoughts. I'm sure that there are people who are like, yeah, JD, that's exactly what I wanted to say. And then I'm sure that there are other people who are like, oh God, JD, why? And I'm somewhere in between there. All right, I'm going to call it a stream because I got to go. Putin warned everybody there's no diplomacy towards Russia. If you don't think that's true, go back to 2008. Listen to the NATO conference with Putin. Right? No, right. Okay, going to call it a stream. Later on, by the way, we're Darkwoods and I are doing a stream around 1:30. Although I'm going to keep in contact with you, Darkwoods, because basically I'm trying to get lunch for my, I don't want to call her a girlfriend yet, but the woman that I'm dating. And so she's a nurse, and thus her schedule is kind of complicated. And I figure that taking care of patients is more important than my streams. But I'm going to try to juggle getting her lunch and doing an interview with you about homelessness. So there it is. Jeff B, glad I caught the end of the stream. Well, I know it wasn't very long. I was tempted not to even go on, but okay, I can do about a 30, 45 minute stream. Hopefully this was worth your time. Hopefully it was mildly entertaining and or informative. And if not, maybe hopefully it got both sides to think about, the perspective of the other side. Okay. Arrive early if you can. I'm going to try to stream this one today. Okay, that sounds fair since I streamed it last time. So sounds fair to me. Good stream. Thanks. Thank you, Clue. You guys are wonderful. I'm going to say, I'm not going to promote anyone just because I'm in a hurry, but I'm going to thank you, everyone. Darkwoods Presents. Thank you. Clue Studio. Thank you very much for your kind comments. And frankly, I want to thank everyone for their perspectives, whether they're right, left, Democrat, Republican. It's that the difference isn't what's going to destroy us. It's not listening to each other and not trying to understand each other. That's what's going to destroy us. Space Fraggle, kapla. Glory to you and your house. And thank you so much for the comments for Cassie. She's frankly, I know it's probably stupid, but she's more important to me than any of this. She's such a good girl. I wish she was over here. I'd show her to you. She's on the couch right now. Gorilla Sensor Thoughts. Hail and well met. Thank you very much. I'm sorry that I'm always picking times, trying to get better at it, but man, life is so complicated. Anyway, short stream, not what the subject deserves or you as my audience deserves. You all deserve better, but gotta call it. Appreciate all of you. It has been said, life is pain. Anyone telling you otherwise is trying to sell you something. Zelenskyy is trying to sell us on the idea of helping his country be as strong as possible. Makes sense. It's his country. Trump's trying to sell us on the idea that he's a spiffy president. Makes sense. He's human. But I'm trying to sell you on something as well, and that is that you are smart enough, kind enough, virtuous enough to run your own life. You do not need big companies, big corporations, big tech, big government telling you how to live your life. And though it may seem otherwise, I want you to know you're not going mad. You're going sane in a world gone mad. Thank you so much, and y'all have a wonderful Saturday. I hope to see some of you while I interview Darkwood Presents on his channel, hopefully close to 1:30 Central. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.